sure what the event was, but Adura kindly explained to me, and I'm grateful and really happy that I'm able to be here today. Please sit down. Please sit down. I was given two topics, but because I wasn't sure what the mix of audience would be, I thought I should leave a few things open. So I prepared some slides that we'll go through, but please, in the course of me going through the slides, if there are any specific areas or topics that anybody would like us to cover, just maybe, Adura, you can help. Pass it to him. I can touch on a number of things. Thank you very much once again. So as he said, my name is Sam Emmanuel. I'm a software engineer by background. Lived a lot of my life within financial services and done, been privileged to work in a number of places. But a number of years ago, because again, for whatever we do, we need to remember why we're here and whose we are. And so in the journey of, at least for me in my life, I was thinking about, has God put us here just to acquire degrees and acquire skills and just go through life? Or are we here for the furtherance of his kingdom? And of course, there are different ways that we can work in that kingdom. There are wonderful people like you guys running churches, ministering to people. And there are those of us that believe that we've been called to work in this business sphere to contribute to how people can be lifted. Of course, the churches do a good job of ensuring that people are spiritually equipped and nourished. But then we know that as we go through lives, there are some other areas where people need equipping. And so as a result of that, we started Semicolon back in 2019. And the goal was essentially that if you look across Nigeria and the continent, Africa really, we're blessed with natural resources. We're blessed, more importantly, with human capital resources. Unfortunately, a lot of our people, though our population is a larger percentage of our population is young people, a lot of our people, unfortunately, can't find jobs. And whilst a lot of the young people are saying they can't find jobs, we have many companies saying they can't find people. And so what we thought to do is, how do we bridge the gap between those who say they can't find people and those who say they can't find jobs? As I mentioned earlier, I'm a software engineer by background. And so one of the things that we know is that the world is digitizing. So even today here, we see a lot of technology around us in various ways. And so as the world digitizes, the question becomes, what is the role and what is the role that each of us can play? Do we just play a role in terms of consuming the technology that other people produce? Or can we play a role in also contributing to the creation of technology that other people consume? And so as a result of that, with Semicolon, our focus is, how do we train software engineers and tech entrepreneurs? So people come to the program. It's a one-year-long program. It's full-time. Adura was asking me, is it online? And I said no. I asked him a question that he was the first that gave me that answer. I said, if you meet a surgeon that learns what he does online, would you let him train you? Would you let him operate on you? He said, well, maybe if he has been practicing. And I said, no. the truth of the matter is there are certain jobs that people do that we know that we can't fully train them online. There's an element of it that needs to happen offline. And so anyway, so we train people. It's a year-long training program. And then if we're going to address the problem of youth unemployment, it's not enough for us to train people and just wait to only put them in jobs. It's also important that we're able to create those who can create jobs. And so for that reason, there's about 10% of those that go through our program who have ideas that they want to turn into businesses, and we help them get those ideas off the ground. One of the things we know about our dear country is that everywhere we look, there's a problem. And unfortunately, we don't have a shortage of people to complain or to tell us about the problem. The shortage we have is people coming up with ideas and solutions to those problems. And so part of what we're doing within Semicolon Ventures is training people to have new eyes of how do they look at the things that we would otherwise call problems and complain about, and begin to look at them as opportunities to innovate. And as they innovate and come up with potential solutions to those problems, are we able to provide them the support that they need to be able to turn those ideas into businesses? When people are young and maybe many of them inexperienced, just trying to start out, either in their career or in their professional journey or in a business, they need support. A lot of people think support comes down to money. Money, yes, you need it, but there's usually help that people need in terms of thinking through whatever idea that they're working on. So ideation. There's help that people need in terms of making sure that they have the right teams working with them on whatever it is that they're doing. And then, of course, the third one is helping them with capital. And the fourth one is corporate governance. Unfortunately, if we look in our society, corporate governance is a major issue. That people invest in companies, and before you hear it, the CEO or the founder of the company has used the funds for something other than what it was intended for. So we believe that corporate governance is very important. And then the fifth one is, of course, when people are just starting, they're not able to get a lot of the resources that they need, like offices, internet, generators. So we provide a space for them to work. We provide some of our staff, legal and accounting, to support them. So that's sort of semicolon. What I wanted to cover with you today is let's, as we talk about preparing for our careers and our professional journey, and we think about what opportunities might be out there and how do we prepare ourselves. You can go to the next slide, please. So the first thing to mention is that each of us must recognize that we are now in the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is underpinned by the digital economy. And so if we think of many of us now, how many things do we do in our lives today that we do online through our phones? So whether we realized it consciously or unconsciously, we have been participating, and we're increasingly participating in the digital economy. And if you look at that digital economy, a few things need to be clear. The first one is that the digital economy is the era of platforms. Some of the most common examples, almost all of us use Facebook, or maybe even Twitter or whatever it is. They are platforms. They are platforms because for us, we just see them as a place where we can connect with our friends. But the other side of what's happening on those platforms is they're using them as advertising. So companies that are trying to reach their customers, use those platforms to reach them because they know those are on those platforms. So the first thing is that we must learn and recognize that platforms are all around us. Platforms are about two critical elements. The first one is, on a platform there must be producers and there must be consumers. The easiest example to give you is Uber or Bolt or any of those sorts of services that you use. There are those who produce rides on Uber, and there are those who consume rides on Uber. And so, with a platform, they're essentially managing a network, or two networks if you like. A network of producers and a network of consumers, and enabling both of them to interact. Next please. No. There are other elements on this slide. Aha. So with a platform, you need to be aware of something called the network effect. The same way, if we're offline, we try to build a network. A network of course, for each and every one of us, our initial and first network is our family. From there, we make friends either in school, in our place of worship in church, or maybe where we work, or maybe where we do business. So it's the same thing that the platforms are doing. They're enabling network effects, peer-to-peer interactions, direct and indirect effects, and the platforms themselves create inherent value. They make it difficult for people to leave, because once you are in a place where you're interacting a lot with lots of your friends, you want to remain in that place. The third thing that we must recognize with digital disruption is the idea of bundling. And bundling is something that many people, particularly if you are not in the digital space, don't realize. When we talk about innovation, innovation is different from invention. Innovation is us looking for new ways to combine existing capabilities or existing resources. And so as a result, if you think of bundling, we're thinking of how can we reconstruct business models? How can we enable collaborative innovation? How do we do something we call unbundling? That, I don't know if many of you noticed, some weeks ago, the NCC, National or Nigerian Communications Commission, licensed MVNOs, mobile virtual network operators. Before that, you only had mobile network operators, the likes of MTN, Glo, Airtel, 9Mobile. But now that they've licensed mobile virtual MVNOs, mobile virtual network operators, what it means is that to do that anymore. You can rent it from other people, and before you know it, you're up and running. So when you think about digital disruption, think about digital disruption in terms of platforms, think about network effects, and then think about bundling and unbundling. Next slide, please. And as you do that, one of the things that you want to of ensuring that we're the right person, whatever definition we put to that, how do we attract the right people for whatever it is that we want to endeavor into? And so a lot of times there's a lot of focus on strategy. But culture, how do we work together, is very important. Next slide, please. And so as you think about culture and you think about teams, think about 3 C's. The first one is job. They've demonstrated some initial skill sets in the area that you want to put them. Then character. In the environment where we find ourselves, character is very important. Many of us are remember the 3 C's when you're trying to build a team. Because people say, oh, I don't want trouble. Oh, if I say something to her now, she'll get angry. So always put yourself in a position. Because for us, we have blind spots. We have areas that we don't see everything like we should. And so this is why a lot of us try to have mentors. But even if you have a mentor, you should have peers that you trust to be able to tell you the things that you need to hear. So the second side, the blind spots. before you decide to start revealing certain things to them. And what I think is that as you do these two things, that you're in a position where people it's not just with, like I said, in the sense that maybe they look up to you in certain But in the context of business, we say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That as God and as the Bible has told us, right? See a man diligent in his ways. That if we have places where we have been diligent and we are being diligent, that is us preparing. And then one those that don't realize the journey that we took to get there, we say, that guy was lucky. Oh. It was not luck. It was opportunity meeting preparation. And so that was of that first thing. There's an element of us as a person in terms of our disposition and how we go out into life and our perspective and our views, also positioning ourselves overused, maybe also a buzzword, maybe also, one of those things that people like to say they do, whether or not they actually do it. But innovation, we look at a country like ours, Nigeria, there's still a lot of development that needs to happen. There are many of those that when you talk about development, the first thing that comes to their mind is government. But there are many of us that want to jackpot. There are many of us that have jackpot. The places that we jackpot to or that we want to jackpot to, they are not developed because of the government. They are developed because the people innovated. They built things. And so the same thing that we need to do here, that how do we start innovating around the many problems that we see around us? Next slide, please. Go on. So one of the first things that we should people improve their economic, social, many countries you see today that are rich, but they are not prosperous. An example is our dear country, Nigeria. It's a rich country. Again, God has told us, right? We're kings and queens. He has put us here to do what? To rule. So how do we start being in places where we can take our position? Please move forward. So prosperity breeds increasing freedoms, economic, social, and political. About the things that they're expecting from their leaders. And of course, we can't remain in a place where we're always being vocal about what we want from our leaders. That we also have to be in a position where we can also speak. And information into products and services of greater value. And so if we remember the economics we did when we were in school, the factors of production, labor, land, and capital, all we've done here is we've now added information. And so innovation is that process by which we combine those things so that we can create products and services of greater value. If you think about the things around you that you consider as innovation, this was exactly what they were doing. If you think about something like Uber or Bolt, they just innovated on how we utilize public transport. The same taxis that were on the road before, all of a sudden now you can book it through your phone. Before you'd have stood on the road and waved somebody down. Let's move on, please. Typically a lot of upfront investment. But if you want to engage in innovation, that is a lot easier. market existing yet. So these are the ones where we have the greater chances of big opportunities. Next slide, please. And so as you think about to drop in our lap on a platter. There are many of us going through life expecting opportunity to come to us dressed in overalls. We're tedious work. Opportunity will come dressed in very dirty overalls. You have to work through it. And this is why our Bible has told us, see a man diligent in his ways. That how are we being diligent? What are we being diligent at? And so, opportunity will be in struggle. We'll find opportunity in struggle. And there are already many examples around us of people candid and frank. But it's not until you start a business before you can work on innovation. You can work with somebody who is starting so that together you build something. Next one, please. Executing people's strategy. what can I do about this? Next slide, please. Design thinking. Okay, should we take some questions? Any questions?
Okay, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to appreciate you for being here and the good job you're doing. But my question is this. In the course of the interaction today, we come to understand that this form of one must have either if you want to reinvent the process or you want to invent. Now, the process in most cases, some people are affected with this. Even if you invent the process, at the end of the business falls. Probably the business, like I said, people are majorly, the Bible said that nothing is that nobody is. So what somebody does in the business that is other people are doing, I want to do it for yourself. At the end of the day, you start doing this. And it fails. And when other people hear the story, they feel so discouraged in going into the business. Other people are committed and fail. And my question is, how do you deal with this fear of also, some people have borrowed money to probably start a business on their own with high interest, which they will pay back. So how do you deal? Because this subject is very fine. Whatever you do that is there was the money put into the business, and more also other input variables that are not constant in Nigeria today. See the price of diesel, see the price of fuel, everything. Then how will you deal with the problem of no? So that when someone is going into business, you now understand that the outcome will be positive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good and common question that we get. One of the things I did not mention, I sort of mentioned it, I wasn't too explicit. I'm an investor, and we've been fortunate to invest in a number of businesses over time. And the ways that we look at things is, if somebody wants to start a business, there are three questions or three things that we're trying to sort of answer. What's the problem that they're trying to solve? If they can't describe that problem to us in a short one-line sentence, we don't believe that they understand the problem, so we won't invest. Assuming that they are able to answer that question in a short one-sentence description, the second thing we look at is, who is the team behind that idea? So not just the person telling us, who else is working with them? Then the third thing that we look at is, what is their ability to execute on this thing that they say they want to do? So for example, if I have somebody, for example, living in Ikoyi, telling me that they want to solve a problem in agriculture, I look at the person, I look at those they're working with, maybe they have good pedigree. Then I ask them, when last were you at a farm? Or how many farms have you been to? And he says, oh, I've never been to a farm. Right there. I'm not going to do it. You want to do something in agriculture? You've never been to a farm before. You are not proximate to the problem that you're trying to solve. And so, that's in terms of the team. Their ability to execute. What have they done before? Do they understand? We know that when you're trying to enter a new market, there's a lot of risk. Our Bible has told us with every stroke of the axe, there's risk. So the fact that there's risk is not an issue. How do we manage risk? How do we define and quantify risk? Is the value from your investors. Your investors, when you're starting a business, when you're running a business is all about what? Cash flow. Cash flow. And when you're starting, cash flow, very rarely, it's not often, unless somebody is fantastically lucky, that you start a business and you start off with revenue on day one. So typically you start business and what? You have to collect equity investment from some investors. Maybe you were fortunate, you got loan, debt, investment from investors. Maybe you were lucky and you got grant. But the truth of the matter is that when you think about the cash flow to get a business off the ground, there are four sources of that cash flow: revenue, equity, investment, debt, and grants. How many people start business and when you're starting to get a loan? If you get a loan, you're probably getting that loan from a loan shark. The interest rate will be too high. If you're starting a business and you're getting a loan at 30%, essentially what you are saying is you are sure that this business you are going to run is going to give you profit that is more than 30%. Otherwise, you have no business taking that loan. Your cost of capital is too high. So unless, and how many businesses can we do that you're getting a 30% margin? So already, it should tell you that this is wrong. So, delay the loan. Try to see. Because when you have an idea, this is a great, we like this thing, right? Idea. It makes us feel good. I have an idea. But the truth and the reality is what? Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody has an idea. But not everybody does something with the idea. And many of those who do something with the idea don't plan properly before they start doing something. Then they fail and they say, the business didn't work. Was it that the business didn't work or you didn't prepare properly to work on that idea? Right? And so, I agree with you that there are many businesses people go into and they fail, but they fail for a large number of reasons. There are ways to work against those things, and some of them are the things I said. What's the idea? And as you're looking at the idea, how big is this idea? How many people are interested in this idea? How many people will pay for a solution to this thing, to this problem? If you can't answer those questions, don't start the business. There are many people that go and start a pure water business because they saw some guy that also started it and is making money. But they did not do the calculation and say, because the mistake we make, revenue is not the same thing as margin. If I put in ₦1 million, for example, into a business, and then when I sell, I get 1.1 million naira. Right? Those that don't know that I put in $1 million will say, wow, that guy's made a lot of money. But I didn't make 1.1 million, I only made 100,000. So we should be careful about the distinction between revenue and margin. And if your margin is not enough to make you positive after you've covered all your costs, be careful before you start that business. There are many people that go into business and they don't understand Finance 101. I believe we have lots of Igbo people in our midst today. And if we think about the Igbo apprenticeship system, what has it done for us? It has helped us groom a lot of successful business people. But it didn't happen, just like that. Somebody went under somebody and was there for many years learning how to run business. And that person was spending time teaching this other person these things. It might be in informal ways, but they were learning this thing. Say, if we go and buy whatever it is we sell, let's say, assume they are selling electronics or AC. If we buy an AC for 10 naira, you cannot sell it for 10 naira. You can't even sell it for 11 naira. By the time you think about your cost of going to the place to buy it, your cost of transporting it to your store, your cost of running your store every day. So the guy has learned that by the time he starts his own business, there's this basic thing that he must understand. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but the short answer to your question is that there's a lot of preparation that should go into the planning of a business before we start the business. Don't jump into a river with both feet and say, oops, the river was very deep and I didn't know. You should have tested it first. And the ways that we test it, there are enough models to guide us. And so this is what we do in Semicolon Ventures with the young people that we work with. So for us, we created a venture fund of $1 million. We invest at least $25,000 in people's businesses. I'm not going to give somebody $5,000 that answers basic questions. It means it's very money. And the investors that invested in the fund that is making us invest in these people, they are going to hold me accountable if their money is lost. So I must check those things. So those are the things that we say to people. Prove to us that this idea is something that is a real problem and people are interested in. Prove to us that you are the right person to work on this thing. Prove to us that you understand the strategy to execute on this thing. Thank you very much.
Teaching. From the beginning when you were introducing your company, I just occurred to me to ask, and as you are expanding, what are the qualifications? What do somebody have to be trained? You talk that will take for a year. What does a young man or young woman or anybody who is what is the minimum qualification? I'm not just talking about academic, but academic inclusive. What does the person have to qualify to go through the training?
Thank you, sir. The one qualification that we genuinely need from people is the attitude to learning. And what we mean by that is really, we say to the people that come to our place, without discipline, you can learn nothing. There are many people in our society today who want to succeed. They want overnight success. They don't want to go through a process. They don't want to understand that success comes through hard work, through diligence at something. They are looking for their day when they are going to be in front of Forbes 30 under 30, and everybody will clap. And so for us, the thing that we look for is that discipline, that attitude towards learning. That show me somebody who is genuinely interested in learning, genuinely interested in working hard. I can teach him anything because he has the right mindset. But the people that are there to learn, just as a means to an end, looking for a quick buck, they won't focus, they won't give it the work that it needs. And so, about 67% of those that come to our program or apply to our program have a first degree. So we have about 23% that don't have a degree. Some of the highest earners, after going through our program, do not have a degree. Because when they come, because they don't have a degree, and they know that we're in a place or in an environment where employers look down on you and have a degree, they make themselves, they work hard. And no surprises when they are done, they get a job. And not only do they get a job, they get a very good job. And so, sir, the one key qualification is that discipline. That's willingness, attitude towards learning. That's really what we look for. Of course, we go through a number of things when people apply. We get them to do a questionnaire, we get them to do an aptitude test, we get them to attend an info session, attend an interview, and then we do some psychometric analysis. All of those are just factors that help us in making a decision, but they are not the factor. The key critical factor for us is that attitude towards learning and that discipline. Thank you.
People don't look at what you know, or what they can display in terms of skill. But paper qualification is very critical probably for different offices, like what Bishop said. Can you say that people who come to your college or school, they're not supposed to have school stats? Or what? Because I know the minimum qualification now for a person to have to become a president of Nigeria. So I don't know how I can throw 2 words on that. Because it's okay, people like us when they go to school. You come to your school to learn. Is it the primary thing you can do? You should have to start beyond having other tertiary education qualifications.
Forgive me, I'm going to get slightly technical. But essentially, if you look at educational theory, there are lots of things around cognitive psychology. And when you think about how people learn and what it takes people to learn, a few things that are proven facts. You learn based on some prior knowledge. Right? So if you want to semicolon to learn software engineering, there should be some basic language of instruction, for example, is English. So we're going to understand English. If you are trying to do software engineering, a lot of the things that happen in programming, for example, there's a lot of logical reasoning, logical thinking that happens. And so as part of the training, we train people in critical thinking. Critical thinking, you don't need a degree for you to do critical thinking. All of us do critical thinking every day. And when we were children, our parents were guiding us and teaching us certain things. Those are things that contribute. But having said that, that logical reasoning is sharpened over time as a result of exposure. And exposure is not always just a function of formal educational exposure. Because like I was giving the example of the Igbo apprenticeship process, a lot of those guys did not go to business school. But they know business more than many business people that went to business school. Right? And so the point is that there's some foundation of prior knowledge that is required. Where you acquired it, how you acquired it is not of interest to us. I'll give you an example. When I was at Imperial College in London, there's a professor at Imperial College, an English guy. Every year, he travels to Nigeria, and he goes to a particular state, Ekiti. There's a particular region there. And he says, every year, I go there to look for a gem. And every year, he finds a gem. And once he finds the person, he will do everything and bring them to Imperial College. And on this particular year, while I was there, he came with a certain boy. His English is not like yours and mine. Why are you doing that like that? That sort of, proper local English that gives you an indication of where they got him from. But anytime they pull out anything to do with mathematics or physics, he had no compare. He had no compare. So they put him on a program, I think he was doing a MSc Petroleum Engineering, something like that, after which they put him on a PhD program. And they will be in class, and the boy will raise his hand to ask a question. And the professor will say, hold on, and run off to the faculty office and call his colleagues and say, come, that boy is about to ask a question. We're going to answer it together. Because the boy was that good when it came to anything mathematics and physics. So one day they called him and said, how did you... He said, my parents didn't have money to send me to school. And unfortunately, someday I found this textbook in maths. And I sat down, I was reading it, and I was solving the equations. And that's all I did in my life. I don't know anything else, but this one and this one. That's all I've been doing in my life. And that was it. And so my point is There is prior knowledge required for any learning journey
we decide to embark on.
How we acquired it is a different matter.
We started in 2019, it's a one-year training program. So the first set of people that were going to go into jobs was in 2020, early 2020. And we are training 10 people who are the typical people that want to employ them, the banks. And so a lot of them came and said, yeah, we need people, send them. And there was a day, a bank hired 4 people from us and told them to come and start work. And they went to start work, 4 of them, and I was in a meeting. By the time I came out of the meeting, 26 missed calls. So I could guess what had happened. They sent back one of the guys because he did not have a degree. The people went to start work on Monday, but on Thursday, I had gone to the same bank for a meeting for something else. And then they were telling me that, oh, we're excited, your people are starting on Monday. And they spoke about this particular person that they sent back. Say, we really like him, he's very good. And since they didn't say anything about degree, about him, me too, I didn't say anything, but I suspected that they had not realized that he did not have a degree. The boy is an orphan. He used to play piano in a church, and somebody told him about us, and he came to do the program. So anyway, he finished. He's very good, but he doesn't have a degree. He got a job with a bank. On the first day when he turned up, when they said, submit your documents, he looked at them like, what documents? I don't have any documents, just me. So on the spot, they canceled the offer and sent him back. And he came back to the office dejected, acting like his world had crashed. And I told him that my office is not the place for dejection. Because I reminded him, I said, a year ago, did you have the audacity to apply to that bank for a job? Let alone to get a job offer from them. I said, so you haven't achieved what you wanted, but please don't take sight of the fact that you have made progress. You are not where you were a year ago. So I said, don't worry. Sit down. I'll show you. Been doing it. 2 weeks later, he got an email from Cambridge University. And he did not respond. So those ones, after waiting for 2 weeks, I didn't get a response from him. They sent me a message and said, we sent a message to your guy, but didn't respond. So I called him. I said, did you receive that email? He said, yes. I said, why didn't you respond? He said, I thought it was a scam, so I ignored it. And if we understand what he's trying to say, he's saying, me. What business have I got with Cambridge University? I didn't go anywhere. Why would Cambridge University be sending me? So I told him, I said, I was the one that did something that caused them to send you that email. Go and respond. So he went and responded to their email. And within a few weeks from there, he started work. He's working with one of the fintechs here in Lagos. He's been there for 3 years. And so my point is, when we look at the story of that guy, who lost? The bank. He didn't lose anything. He doesn't have a degree. With or without the degree, he's gotten a job. He's doing excellently well. This thing that I just did for you, there was a time last year we had an event and we invited him to come and speak. He was doing something similar because he did not stop there. Once he started working, he kept learning and improving himself. And that's what I'm referring to about the attitude to learning. The mindset for diligence, continuous improvement. That's what we need to do. A generation of young people that are eager and committed to working hard. I hope I answered your question. Thank you very much. I've been told to just carry on. So I'll move back to the slides. So,
The program that we run at Semicolon, we intentionally refer to it as people doing businesses and maybe the business failing. That we tell people that as you think about digital disruption, there are three things that you're looking to combine. Design thinking, how do you come up with ideas? Lean startup, how the lean startup is about build, measure, learn. They don't think through some things in between. Remember that ideas are a dime a dozen, so be careful. Inspiration, learn directly from the people you are designing for. verify the user desirability, the technical feasibility, and the economic viability. Next, please. And this is what I'll get the light bulb. How did you handle the fact that you failed 999 times? He said, no, I did not fail 999 times. I discovered 999 ways not to do it. And so what we say in the journey of innovation, design thinking, is fail fast, fail often, fail forward. Because that is how you do experimentation and exploration. Next, please. To undertake. Next. It people have an idea and they just run to, now let me do something. But you should spend some time trying to ensure that you fully and truly understand that problem. Next, observe. Once you've done your research, you want to generate lots of ideas in relation to that problem so that you can then later start to categorize them to see which of the ideas is the one to start with. Next, please. And then prototype. As much as possible.
Okay, praise the Lord. I had a barbing machine I bought. And when I was using my hair, it's the one that has this 3-pin barbing machine. I use it to shave. But if I finish using it and I collect hair, there's no way it can, there's no way the hair opens that the barbing machine has set to go out. But the way it's done, if I finish it, I'll hit it at that place that I'm hitting the head, I'll hit it, then the hair goes out. So in the process of hitting the hair, the man pulled out from the barbing machine. So the machine was good, but that's different. Was improved upon.
Thank you. Anybody else? One of the ladies? Oh, okay, there's somebody in front.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I was looking at this flyer at the front, and ever since I saw it, I felt the images on it would have been placed better. Because I felt, to me, it was as if the person was backing the third person, and then the third person, the first person is facing this way, the middle person was like the third person was like this. So I thought the last person should have been placed at the middle, while the one at the middle should have been placed this way. So that was what I just thought.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you see, those are some, it's a quick way to show you that each of us, we have creativity, right? So a barbing machine, just as a result of using it, you already have an idea of, oh, if I was doing this thing, I would have designed this thing differently for it to be removable, right? To empty whatever it has collected. And then you look at a poster, and again, because again, if we think about posters, and we see lots of them, those that design, the graphics designers that design those things, they also put some thought into placement of the different elements of the design. And so, as you go through life, right, just keep looking. I think there's one more slide. Hello? Okay.